Welcome back to Phil's Wrestling Show. Here's my TNA Impact Review. TNA Impact from February 9th, 2012. Now, last week they pushed this show heavily as a Star Wars theme, and I was kind of looking forward to this. Maybe some of the people will be dressed, somewhat Star Wars style. What it really turned out to be was TNA Impact with all the commercial breaks having to be about Star Wars. So there was an interesting video package at the top of the show comparing, like Bischoff to Darth Vader and, different mixed in scenes, but really the show was not as Star Wars themed as I would have liked to see. I mean, if WWE had a Star Wars themed Raw, I think that would be pretty epic. And just to be clear, I am not a Star Wars fanatic, but I do enjoy the movies and I do enjoy the stories, but this was not as themed as I would have liked it to be. Despite the fact that the themes in Star Wars would transfer over quite well to wrestling, but this wasn't exactly what they threw out there. It was good. Right at the top of the show, Bully Ray was pissed that Robert Roode didn't help him win the match against James Storm last week, claiming that he wasn't watching, didn't have his back. And of course, Bobby Roode is now getting afraid here because this is his one buddy he has left. Despite being the leader of the Selfish Generation, he's become quite buddy-buddy with Bully Ray. So these two were definitely going at each other in the ring over last week's debacle. Of course, Bully Ray helped Robert Roode defeat James Storm last week, but in the second match for James Storm in the night, Bully Ray lost to James Storm, partly because Robert Roode took a hike. So it was good to see getting a little confrontation between those two heading into Against All Odds, especially where it's a fatal four-way for the TNA Championship. Definitely good to see all the parties getting involved here. Of course, something that has hurt the last two episodes is that, of course, Jeff Hardy hasn't been there to help push the fatal four-way feud. So that's been hurting it a bit. I'm pretty sure it must have stemmed from his court case last year. I don't know that he could work in England, so that did hurt the story a bit, not having Jeff Hardy as involved. From there, we got a match between Christopher Daniels and AJ Styles to continue the feud with Kazarian, and these two pretty much 99% of the time have a good match. The only match I've seen between these two I didn't care for was last year's Bound for Glory, the I Quit match. The ideas in it were good, but because of the shortened time and the fact that they couldn't wrestle the match they would normally wrestle, I really got to say that's not one of my favorite matches from them, and that's quite disappointing overall. But on this week's show, we had actually a really good match between them, and some storyline advancement where Kazarian, even though he really didn't want to, handed Christopher Daniels the brass knucks to use against AJ Styles. Probably the best match from the show. If you don't watch any other matches from the show, at least go back and see if you can catch that one in its full. I mean, AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels, how could it, really can't be that bad. From there, Samoa Joe and Magnus came out, and Magnus got an excellent promo about being back in his home country. Definitely another part of the show. If you ever doubted Magnus or doubted his ability on the mic, he might change your mind with this one, because it was really fucking good. I personally, I'm not a Magnus mark. I don't go out of my way to, find out what's going on with Magnus, but he definitely opened my eyes on this promo. I didn't think this was something he could pull out. So definitely good to see a homemade TNA star on the rise like that. I really like to see him going up. This whole little feud is actually like that. They're actually figuring out how to use Samoa Joe again, which is still boggles my mind. But overall, this feud's not too bad. He got excellent promo about being back in his home in the UK, and he was getting great reactions. I mean, Joe didn't even have anything, they didn't even let Joe go on the mic. This was all Magnus, and he did a great job. Crimson and Morgan came out, and they got into a brawl. just to continue the feud. And I'd really like to see Joe and Magnus get a run with the belts. I think let Crimson and Morgan move on, have their feud, most likely with each other, and let Magnus and Joe tear it up for a while with the tag belts. And maybe by the time we get to Bound for Glory, maybe Joe will be in a spot to get back in that main event division. From there, we got interesting triple threat X Division style. Austin Aries versus Alex Shelley versus Doug Williams. And the reason I thought this was kind of interesting is because Aries is facing Alex Shelley at against all odds, and kind of like giving away your title match, just maybe even a little better with Doug Williams being in there. It was a good triple threat match all around. Great X Division action. Alex Shelley ended up picking up the win on Austin Aries, so that was good. And I don't know if that Aries is going to lose the strap based on that alone, that he lost to Shelley on the Go Home show. So for all those Alex Shelley fans out there, I'm sorry to break it to you, but I think Aries is keeping the strap. From there, we got now this is something that TNA does well. When they're in it somewhere different, they like to use it fully to their extent. And we got an interesting segment where Tara was in England, having a look at the sites, making it look like a little promo thing for TNA, but she gets attacked by Gail Kim, and they have a little brawl. And it's little things like that I appreciate TNA does, making use of their unique venues when you're away from the Impact Zone. Of course, then we got more of the stupid storyline with Eric Bischoff and Hogan. Like I said, I was really disappointed that Hogan was the trainer of Garrett Bischoff. I mean, Hogan's one of the best promo guys in history, but not exactly the guy I'd go to get trained for wrestling. I mean, this is the guy who has an electric device in his fucking spine now. So, probably not where you want to be in life in your 50s. So, I don't know that that's the guy you'd want to fully pattern your whole career after. Success-wise, sure, but how it came out on the other end of things, not so much. So really, the only way this whole feud could really pay off is that if Gunner and Garrett Bischoff have an at least 3 to 4 to maybe 5-star match, and I'm gonna have to throw it out there that is a giant NGH. They're not gonna happen on a 5-star match with Gunner and Garrett Bischoff. So I appreciate that, how they set things up where, Garrett and Hogan is one side and Eric Bischoff and Gunner is the other side, but no, it's not doing it for me personally. I don't care for it, but I'm pretty sure it's not going anywhere. Then we got more from Roode and Bully Ray in the backstage area as they were preparing for the night's tag team match against James Storm and Sting. They somewhat smoothed over their differences. Bully Ray insisted that he was a great tag team wrestler, and Bobby Roode was only a good tag team wrestler, which of course is completely insulting to the whole history of beer money. And then once they finally straightened things out, it couldn't just be sealed with a handshake. Robert Roode insisted that brothers hug. So, good hilarity. Completely brings me back to the old Austin and Angle bits from the Alliance days. If you enjoy some good comedy in your wrestling, definitely seek out the backstage bits with Bully Ray and Robert Roode. Good stuff. Good stuff. From there, Velvet Sky took on Mickie James, and what a good match from these two. I really got to give it to Velvet Sky. A lot of the pretty girls don't become good wrestlers, but she's definitely tried real hard. She had a good match with Mickie James, a good back and forth contest, and Velvet actually picked up the win with a cradle. And I'm just glad to see Velvet picking it up in the ring and having good matches. Mickie James, of course, pretty much always have good matches. And aside from the great athletic action, holy shit, were these two looking good. I gotta say, looking delicious, ladies. Thank you. From there, this is where things got a little better for the main event of Against All Odds. They had a great promo package with never-before-seen interviews with all the participants in the Fatal 4-Way. Jeff Hardy, Bully Ray, Robert Roode, and James Storm. And they all gave their opinions on the match and each other. It's a really, if you're going to see Against All Odds, seek out this promo. It's really good, a really good way to promote the match. It was a good way to get Jeff Hardy in there, considering he couldn't be on the shows. And just more good work in the video department from TNA. Kudos to you guys on that one. And from there, of course, we got the main event of Bully Ray and Robert Roode versus Sting and James Storm. And it basically ran the typical tag team format. But right at the end, Bully Ray, angry the whole night that Robert Roode didn't help him out last week. Sting had Robert Roode in the Scorpion Deathlock, and Bully Ray was gonna smash Sting with the TNA title, but he said, you know what, Bobby? You didn't help me, I can't help you. And Bully Ray hit the bricks and let Robert Roode have to tap to the Stinger. So, even though I wasn't too happy to see Bobby Roode get a loss here, it was to Sting, who isn't really in contention for the title. So, really, overall, it doesn't hurt Bobby Roode at all. Of course, I would have preferred to see Sting and Roode not really get into it too much and maybe have a big one-on-one match on the way to Bound for Glory, but this was still a good match. Overall, a pretty good show. I'm personally, as I said, not a fan of the Hogan-Bischoff feud, but the rest of the show was pretty great. Great wrestling in the X Division match, great wrestling in AJ Styles versus Christopher Daniels, and even the main event, even though it follows a basic tag team format, was still a good match overall. Kudos to TNA. I don't know that it was the greatest overall send-off show for the pay-per-view, but still a solid effort. Good to see them get so much support from the England fans. It's good. We definitely need TNA as a promotion to keep growing, to be, continue the tradition of pro wrestling. WWE always thrives when there's competition, and the better TNA does, the harder WWE tries, or will try. If they are perceived as a threat, WWE will try harder, and that works out better for everyone. When we come back, I'll be taking a figure review of Justin Gabriel, and we'll take a special look at PWS Phil's Wrestling Shirts. We'll be right back.